You ready to throw some spirals?
Yeah, let's throw some. Wait, are you talking about footballs or what are we talking about?
I wish. We are gonna be volleying it back and forth, playing catch, but we're talking about spiral dynamics, bro.
That's an interesting model. Didn't know anything about it until you threw it out into the universe. Started talking about it, did some research on it, and it's pretty deep.
I didn't either, and that's our opening disclaimer: is that we are not experts here. But the purpose of this podcast is to relay what we're working on, and this was something that I shared with Steven. Kind of putting it out there, not knowing what was going to happen, and I was delighted with your response.
Well, I'm always, you throw any topic or, even if I don't know about it, I'm like, yeah, dude, let's rip. Let's something to learn. And that's honestly why we do this podcast, why I enjoy it so much, and why I think podcasting in general is so great is whether you're hosting or you're a guest on at some point, or even you're just listening on a weekly basis or daily basis, you're always learning something new. And that's kind of what the purpose of, spiral dynamics is, and part of, how you evolve and how we've evolved as species, as humankind, through this model. And so we'll kind of break it down from our perspective and what we know. But yeah, definitely not an expert, just learning about it. And that's also the purpose of this podcast, is to bring ideas and things to the forefront for other people, for the listeners to kind of figure out for themselves.
100%. So let's start about what spiral dynamics is. What is the concept? And that's exactly what it is a psychological model. Maps how individuals and societies evolve through different stages of values and thinking. Credited to Claire Graves and Don Beck and Chris Cohen, it views human development as a spiral of increasingly complex worldviews, each building on the last. And I think we'll have a visual aid up around about now if you're watching on YouTube, but these are color stages, and this is not linear. So we're going to go through each stage, which is designated by a color, talk through the descriptions of those, and then we'll do some kind of reflection on where we're at, where we're going, and hopefully it gears you to do the same and check out this reference point.
Yeah, so I'll kick us off. So kind of visualize a tornado, right? You've got like a spiral that starts small at the bottom and it gets bigger all the way as you go up into the sky. And so we're going to start at the bottom. And as you said, each stage, there's 8 stages, and it starts at the bottom. The first one is beige, and beige it's a very archaic model. It's like way back when, thousands of years ago, where it's just survival mode. And that's really what it is. The only thing you think about, it's almost not even a human we would know today. It's literally when you wake up, the only thing you think about is food, water, shelter, reproducing. Like that's it. Like you're not thinking about, there's no emotion, there's no creativity, there's nothing. It's literally just a very archaic mental model, or a spiral dynamic of how do I survive? And how long can I go? And that's it. That's really what all it is.
Amygdala, the lizard brain, fight or flight. What are my bare necessities? That's beige.
Yeah, driven by instincts, and that's it. It's just go.
From there, we move on to purple. Purple is kind of kindred spirits. This is our tribal, a little mystical, maybe religious, safety through the group and the tradition. So this is the progression to humans when we started to come together, using each other, helping each other rear our offspring under a group of values and guidance that may be spiritual, maybe not, maybe back to that survival, but we built on just surviving to community and how we interact with each other. That's purple.
Yep. And so it kind of forms that bond, as you said. And so what can happen though, is once you start building this community, you're going to have people that are in the red, which is the next stage. And those are the leaders that want dominance and power, and they have to have it. They don't necessarily want to work with the group, or maybe they only want to work with their circle, but anyone outside of that circle means nothing to them. And so this can have a negative connotation. Think of like way back when you have, you can think of like Hitler or Joseph or Stalin, right? The Holocaust. Those guys were in the red. They wanted power and dominance.
Maybe a boss you have right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. And you go all the way back to like the Roman Empire and those types of things, and like how murder and killing and that kind of stuff was like part of the norm. And so in order to do that was, hey, I've got my crew, my tribe. And if you're outside of that or don't align with that, then I'm going to take care. I don't care about you. And so it was very much I want it now. I want to make it right. And everything else outside of my beliefs, I'm going to be aggressive. I'm egocentric. I'm impulsive, right? And it's all about dominance and power. And
I think this is a good point to call out how the spiral works, because my brain got stuck on this a little bit. Just because we're in red now and we're seeing these tendencies at this point of our development, we haven't left purple or beige behind. We have the tribe, and we still have those basic instincts of survival interacting. This is that where hierarchy comes in, and this next level of red. And I'm going to take us into blue, which I got a little bit ahead of on the purple side, which is this is where we really put orders and rules in place. This is where there is a real structured religion, where we are abiding to a moral code to keep red in check with beige while we are living in purple. So the blue is really bringing in right and wrong thinking, disciplinary actions. If you are going against the tribe, if that ego has gotten out of hand, we have protocols to keep the tribe in line, and we progress to that model and to the hierarchy.
Yeah, kind of as you evolve and learn, and okay, we've got to keep some of this in check, and if we're going to move forward as one species or humankind, we can't just let one person or one group take over the entire world. So we have to be able to figure this out and have some rules against that. All right, so the next one is moving up in our spiral here is orange. And orange is focused on individual success. It's actually focused on those that are in orange or striving for winning, excelling, achieving at the highest level solely for their purpose. They're not really trying to win for the collective. It's very much a selfish, focus on, and a lot of it can be in today's society in today's day is like how much money you make. A lot of people in this orange have this tendency of like, I only feel successful if I've got this much in the bank. And so you're kind of living in the orange when you're focused on those individualistic, goal-oriented types of things, especially when it comes to finances. But they're in the game to innovate and disrupt old practices, and they want to progress and move forward. But it's very much about achievement.
This is strive and drive, right? This is capitalism. This is probably ringing true with a lot on the podcast. We're going to talk about where we're kind of at, but hint, hint, there's quite a bit of orange that I can see in the mirror and in society right now. That takes us to green, which is well labeled for the color of community, equality, empathy, postmodern values. We're also seeing this in the world right now. All created equal. This is driving back to purple and tribal. You can see we haven't left anything behind, but now we're getting more intentional on how are we looking after the tribe in detail? Where do we fall in this spiral? And how does that spiral work best when we're all meeting each other where we're at, which is really the goal of this whole spiral anyway. And the problem is when we communicate with each other, we're in different portions of the spiral and don't recognize it.
I want to point out too that we've gotten through these first 6 and they kind of categorize as like tier 1 versus tier 2. So we just closed the gap on tier 1 and now we're moving into tier 2. And that's like, it really is just all about evolution and how our brains are adapting and evolving and growing as we continue to thrive. And so first order thinking is your beige through your greens. And so it's each stage here believes the worldview is only right and it's the best way. So whatever stage you're in, and you'll have tendencies in each stage, but you think that's the only, that's it. Anything else outside of that doesn't matter. So we start getting tier 2, which I'll talk about next. And now we're starting to think worldly, globally. We're starting to think it's no longer about us individually and it's about the collective. And so the first stage as you get into tier 2 is yellow, and it's very flowy stage. It's very systems thinking. It's very integration, flexibility. And it's just understanding that life is a complex system. It's a group of complex beings, and understanding that no one person is going to think exactly the same as the next person, and being open to those ideas. and being futuristic and thinking about what's ahead of us as opposed to what is now or what has been done. And so this yellow stage is all about, you see this in entrepreneurs, you see this in founders, you see this in people who are forward thinking and the legacy, generational type wealth that they're trying to build, or the legacy they want to leave behind, or, it's very much, in that world. And that's kind of the ideology of yellow.
It wouldn't be 2025 if we didn't talk about artificial intelligence, right?
Yeah.
I made the mistake of going down the rabbit hole of global financial institutions all the way back from barter to the gold standard, all the way through. My brain hurt and probably only retained about 5% of it.
Well, yeah. And the last point on this, and these are the people, these are like the ones that are open, adapting, and learning constantly, right? So with new technology like that coming into our lives, these are the types of people that are embracing that and finding out what's possible with it, as opposed to shutting it out because it doesn't align.
And ties back to orange with hopefully some green involved, right?
Correct.
Love it. And the final stage, which is near and dear to my heart. And I love that the podcast logo is on my hat right now that I can see on the screen. Turquoise, baby.
Turquoise.
And turquoise is truly global and holistic. And there is spirituality in it. There's a consciousness that we're all one at the end of the day. There's one atom vibrating in every single thing that you see. You think it's solid material. It's all vibration, frequency, and it comes together in one root, whatever your beliefs are, whether it was the Big Bang, and that was the initial molecule, gets out there when you view it that way. But that is how I'm trying to approach the world. And I love that it's the last phase. I didn't expect that in a very logical spiral or workflow. And not sure if we'll ever get to turquoise. I think turquoise is really hard to get your mind wrapped around. I know mine's not fully there yet. And it seems aspirational in the spiral, but I love that it's kind of the capstone.
Yeah, I love that it's there too. I mean, here's a visual. There's no more borders there's no more countries, essentially. Earth is one giant country. And that's kind of the idea people believe, that it's just, you're just being and you're a part of this ecosystem, and almost like you're a wild animal, on the plains, right? Like you're kind of back to that, but we're much smarter than that, right? And so you just have this, you transcend ego and individualism, and it's just about, spirituality, like you said. And I'm glad that this is the last one of what is currently spiral dynamics. But what I want listeners to understand is this is where, like, the thought of what potentially could be, but this is only the course of a few thousand years, or however many thousands of years that we've been on this earth, right? Think about what it's going to be like 1 million years from now, or 5 million, or 100 million. It's impossible to fathom what that could possibly be like. But if Earth is still around, or even if it's not, we move to some other, and this is where you can get deep with this stuff. Yeah. Like the whole dynamics could completely change the course, and no longer stressing about money or survival or whatever. And you just are living in a joyous place, and it almost
still maintaining your creative freedom.
Yes.
And combining all of the aspects that we just listed through in each section.
It is hard to think about, man. Like, I'm not the most deep thinker. I can get there at times, and then it almost scares me to where I just stop. I kind of like, oh my gosh. But it's weird, and it's hard to think about what that world could look like. And I don't know. I think you're more in the turquoise realm than I am at this point, just with all of your spirituality and the things that you do.
It can also be looked at as naivete, right? Like too ideal future state. And that's why I think it's funny. Like, I guess we'll just take it to the stages and we can express where we think we're at. As I said, I'm really in orange and feeling it wholly and around that achievement. I don't have as much of I do. We all have ego in the red. Power's not as much important to me as my self-power, but I don't know, that's always open to interpretation. But I'm going to say, I think we have green and yellow in both of us, and I'm orange, trying to integrate green and yellow with a true desire of my North Star being turquoise when I looked at this. How about you?
Yeah, when I looked at this from like, when I looked completely out and I was kind of studying researching the definitions of each color or kind of diving into it, I thought for sure yellow. But there's definitely orange is probably the next biggest one. Like I'm very driven to succeed at it doesn't even have to be financial success. It's just, I love the outcome of winning. It's a great feeling. I'm okay with losing actually. Like I don't get bothered when I lose. I just love to win. And that's what makes me competitive, but I don't hate to lose, if that makes any sense. I don't know what that means, but I am very
I do. I hate losing.
I don't mind it. Like if you beat me, like if we were in a cornhole tournament up at Summit and I'm like, and I've won that tournament a couple of times. Last year I lost, like it didn't bother me. I'm like, oh, well, whatever. Like, I don't know.
I really hate losing knowing that I could have won.
Yeah.
I'm like reflecting on, but that's where I've reframed it. You've helped me reframe it as, it's cliche, but you don't lose, you learn. It's winner.
Yeah. I mean, it's winner learn.
It's winner learn.
You can't bat 100%. It's impossible. But I think I'm very, very much orange and very much focused on, success and outcomes that are positive. And if they're not that way though, I'm okay. And I learn from them, but very much in the yellow.
I need more yellow.
Tier 2. Yeah.
Need more yellow. We were kind of wrapping before we jumped on today. And that's where this exercise has been helpful for me. Just kind of looking at, now I'm going to be thinking in colors when talking to people about, but I've got some yellow pursuit after going through this exercise. And I really think that, and why this topic is, I don't know if it's gotten popular. I heard about it one time through Dan Coe. So shout out Dan Coe for sending us down the rabbit hole. But like when you talk about politics and workplace culture and social movements, the whole problem is we're not looking at which part of the spiral we're coming from. And that part I do think that I had awareness of, but I didn't have a map or model nicely organized like this to think, they're just really heavy in red right now. Ideally, they may be wanting to shoot toward turquoise, but it just gives you a way to kind of heat map. And these are not labels. If you take one thing from this podcast and you're still listening, these are not labels. These are about growth. And we've got pieces. Actually, I like that, a heat map. When you see an infrared scan, like what are you majority at on these different colors across your body? Because we've got them all in us.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I mean, there's definitely a lot of like, HR assessments, personality assessments and things like that. But this is definitely a model that is maybe not quite at turquoise, but this is proven, mental brain development and how we've evolved over thousands of years. But yeah,
I'm sure there's a quiz.
Yeah, there might be.
There's a quiz for
figure
everything.
out where you're at. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think looking at this, it was really eye opening for me. And as much as I say, I love, I love the SuccessFlow podcast, no pun intended. I love being successful and striving for that. I just don't put too much stock in I don't get upset about what other people are doing or thinking. I'm very open to their side. And that's where I think falling into yellow allows you for ultimate creativity and growth and being open-minded. And that's where it starts. Because if you're like, dude, why would you think that? Like what, well, that makes no sense to me. And, old dog, new tricks, like you can't teach them. It's like, well, you're not in yellow if that's how you're thinking. And you have to put yourself in other people's shoes in order to progress in yourself. And there's no way, like anytime there's an argument, like I'm not a good person to vent to. Like if you vent to me and you have an issue and it's about someone else or about another situation, more often, like I suck. I'm like more often than not thinking about the other person's story and like, why did they, I think that, well, maybe they were going through this or that. And it doesn't help.
That's a very healthy perspective.
But it doesn't help the person that's like wanting me to support them. Sometimes I get in trouble with my wife on that, but it's true. It's being that
thinking
open.
From their side, leader it doesn't help you often.
No,
we got to be better on how you throw it out there. I know
Kimberly, if you're listening, she's probably laughing at this because she knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, we're going to wrap up there. If there's a quiz, we'll link it in the show notes. There's a free quiz. But if this tickled your fancy at all, go check it out. Read through where you're at. We gave a pretty good rundown, I think. But you can go deep on this stuff. And we're going to be incorporating it here.
That's that. Phil
Michael, please edit that. And
don't edit it. Let it roll. Phil forgot to hit the stop record button, and him and I just stared at each other for.
It was a lovely game.
All right,
lovely
if you
games.
enjoyed this, like, subscribe, follow. It does help us. It makes us feel good that you are enjoying these episodes. So
our feelings don't matter.
I know, but it does help. All right.
See y'all.
See ya.
That's a bamboo banger.